Hello, welcome to another edition of Not 72 Questions with Not Vogue. Today we have Thomas Barber on the line, and he's going to be sharing a couple answers to some interesting questions for you all. First of all, what is your title, and who do you work with most closely on the day-to-day?
All right. Title is Director of Sales. I report to Lee and Ty, and of course work with the rest of the sales team, really closely. And in my last couple launches, I've been working quite closely with Anthony as well.
Love me some Anthony. If you could meet any living person for dinner, who would you pick and why?
This one was really difficult for me to answer. I've got, lots of musicians and, celebrity idols I could choose from, but I wanted to be a little more strategic and think, who could I have some influence over? Who could give me some hot stock tips? So I was thinking like maybe people in Congress would be a bit too boring. So I just went with Elon Musk. I figured he could probably give me some good life advice. And, I'm sure we could have some interesting conversations, talk about robots. He could tell me when to buy some Tesla stock. I think that's what I go with.
See, I'd like to have dinner with Grimes, so it makes sense.
There we go. She can be, the plus one.
Yeah. I don't think they talk anymore, but that's okay.
Probably. That might be a little awkward.
What is your best scary story?
Okay, so I don't know if you were going for ghost kind of stories here or just like things that happened to you that were scary, but when I was about 20 years old, I went on a 5-day road trip through Morocco with 3 of my best friends. And we had a few very scary moments on this trip. Like I could go for a bit of a long story here, but I'll condense it down. So at some point we were driving to go into the desert. We wanted to see these really big sand dunes in this place called Erg Shebi. And we picked up a hitchhiker along the way. And he said like, hey, you're going to come to my hotel. And we're like, great, we need a place to stay. So we get to his hotel and then he says, hey, so actually, you know what? It would be too much of a shame for you guys to stay in my hotel. You came all the way from Canada. You got to stay in the desert with the traditional Berber people. So you guys just, leave your bags in my hotel here. Take a day bag and just pack a day bag and we'll go into the desert. Like we're kind of feeling a little nervous about this. We're in the middle of the desert now. There's like no towns anywhere. And so we drive into the he's kind of telling us turn left, turn right. I'm like, it's just desert. Like, can we just go straight? So eventually we get to this spot. He's like, okay, I take car now. Gets in our car and just drives off. And now we're in the middle of the desert. He's gone. We're like, oh, I guess this is where we get murdered. And then, 20 minutes go by and a whole bunch of camels arrive. And we're like, okay, here's the camels. So again, I guess this is legit. We hop on the camels. The guy says it's going to be like 20 minutes or so. Like an hour later, we're weaving through sand dunes. It's the middle of night now. And we're terrified. We think we're going to get murdered. But then it turns out everything was great. And we arrive at this beautiful camp. They were playing drums and, cooking Moroccan chicken. And we had a delicious meal and everything turned out awesome. But the lead up to that point, and really the 3 days prior, I could go on and on, were all sorts of, kind of scary stories and near-death car accidents and whatnot. But yeah, my 5-day trip in Morocco, culminating with this, terrifying event of seeing this guy drive off with our car. That was definitely a scary moment.
It sounds like an episode of Homeland.
Yeah, it could kind of be something like that. But yeah, everything turned out great. Like, next morning, the guy returned our car. I'm sure he joyrided it, but it was a rental, so no big deal.
I can't believe he brought it back. That's amazing. If you could be any supernatural creature, what would you be and why?
So again, I took kind of a strategic approach with this one as well. And I went with vampire because, even though I'm not particularly fond of sucking blood for sustenance and whatnot, I do like the idea of living forever. And certain vampires in our pop culture, I'm a single man here, so I think some vampires seem to do very well on the dating market as well. They have this sparkly shine to them. So I think, the immortality and kind of these powers of persuasion, I think that might suit me well. So I try and be, an ethical vampire.
An ethical vampire?
If there is such a thing.
What is your favorite meal to cook and why?
So I kind of go through phases with my cooking. Right now, I'm in a steak and potatoes phase. I found a recipe. Like I love going on YouTube and looking up different recipes. Gordon Ramsay has always awesome 5-minute videos, and I recently found a video for Steak Diane. So it's like you take a steak and you cook it in or you make a mushroom cream sauce. So you saute some mushrooms, onions, shallots, lots of garlic, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, some mustard. You mix that all up with some fresh parsley, and then you pour this like mushroom cream sauce over your steak with some really nice, crispy potatoes, maybe some beets or some broccoli on the side. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's a really simple dish, but I'm all about making letting the quality of the ingredients speak for themselves and taking something simple and making it super delicious. Not the best summer dish, perhaps. That's maybe more of like a cold winter meal. So if you were to ask me again in a few months, I might have a different answer. But right now, I'm all about steak with mushroom cream sauce and potatoes.
Steak Diane is like an undercover classic. I don't know if you know that. It's been around.
I think it's from the 30s or something.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. That's an interesting one. I like the answer. That's good. You have to sing karaoke. What song do you pick?
So yeah, definitely not. I've actually never sang karaoke. I love performing guitar. I used to play at open mic nights, but I'm very shy when it comes to singing. So if I was to do it, I think I would just really go for it, and I would probably choose "Creep" by Radiohead, because you can just really belt that one out and just like have so much angst and emotion. If I was feeling a little more shy, I might go for "Little Wing" by Jimi Hendrix. That's just a song that I play on guitar a lot, so I know the words really well. I think "Creep" by Radiohead would be number one, because you can really go for that one. That's one I'm singing in the car, by myself.
That is a perfect karaoke song that I have never considered before, but Creep wins. Yeah,
you gotta have some confidence for that one.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. If you could see one movie again for the first time, what would it be and why?
So I'd have to go for Apocalypto. This is one my neighbor recommended to me a few months ago, and I was just kind of stunned. It's one of those movies where you think about it for like a week after, and you're kind of like, and I was just Googling the Mayan Empire and all of this history stuff for a week afterwards, and it's just such an exciting movie. I was on the edge of my seat, kind of horrified the whole time. And so yeah, this kind of, I love that feeling. Like I often say that. I really like this question actually, because I'm often thinking I wish I could see that again for the first time, because there's so many great movies that they don't have that same impact the second watch round. So I think Apocalypto. Anyone who hasn't seen it and wants to be terrified and on the edge of your seat and kind of mind blown, it's definitely a very good one.
It's horrifying. That movie is horrifying.
Yeah, the first half hour is the worst. Then it kind of turns into like a cool chase movie. Yeah. That first half hour or so is horrifying.
Yeah. What is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
So a long time ago, there's a friend that I really look up to, super smart. He said, base all your decisions off of what's going to benefit you most in the long term. And that you can make even the smallest decision, like, should you buy 1 liter of milk or 4 liters of milk? Well, you're going to use the 4 liters of milk and it's cheaper. You should buy 100 pack of socks, but buy everything in bulk. You're going to use it all long term. Investments, basically anything you do in life, do it long term. Think for the long run. I suppose you can balance that a little bit, hedge your bets a little bit. We could die tomorrow, I suppose. So you do have to live your life. But yeah, thinking long term is the way to go. I think that's what, when we look at like entrepreneurs and kind of these business icons, I think they tend to think long term and they make these big, 10, 15 year plays. And I think that's kind of the way to be successful in life.
Yeah, we're getting a theme of strategy here, Thomas.
Mm-hmm. I'm very analytical.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would you choose?
So I am a really active guy, and I've acquired a lot of injuries over my years, and I turned 35 this year, so I'm kind of just getting to that point where I'm kind of getting older and things start to hurt a little more. So I wish I could have, that 22-year-old ability to just heal from injuries. I love all those little, all the pulled tendons and things that kind of hurt. I'd love to be like 22 again in that sense, and just be able to, hurl my body off cliffs and go surfing and, be like Wolverine and just heal up the next day. I'm not much of a drinker, but the hangovers, I can't drink more than 1 beer now without feeling pretty bad in the morning. So Yeah, I want that youthful, just lack of injuries again.
Yeah, I agree. Do you collect anything?
So I don't really consider myself to be a collector. I have 5 guitars though, so I suppose that qualifies as a collection. I'm not going out there and buying guitars like purely for their historical value or anything like that. I just like to have the different sounds of them. But if I did have like buckets of money to spend on things that weren't like super useful to me, I'd love to be collecting, like Eric Clapton's, old guitars and stuff like that, or just interesting like rare guitars. That's kind of something I've been geeking out on recently. I've kind of been just, reading about old guitars and whatnot.
Do you
how they changed over the years.
Do you prefer acoustic or electric?
Definitely electric. I'll play a little bit of acoustic, but yeah, definitely a bigger fan of electric guitar.
Cool. If you could live anywhere on the planet, where would you choose to live?
So I'm actually like pretty much already doing it. I really love where I live. I've traveled all over the world, and I feel really lucky to be where I'm from. Maybe I.
This is why I threw this question in here, because I knew it was where you were.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited where I do live. That being said, though, Amsterdam has a big place in my heart. I spent, a year and a half living there.
Well, tell the people where you live, because a lot of them won't know.
Okay, yeah. So I'm in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. It's an island, it's about the size of like a small European country, like the size of a Holland. West Coast is extremely wild. The East Coast is we get less rain than Florida here, actually. It's pretty sunny in the summer months, and we have big mountains right next to the ocean. Lots of wildlife and whatnot around. But if I couldn't live here, I think I would go to Spain, and it would either be the Basque Coast or to a desert island called Lanzarote, which looks more like Mars and has amazing surfing and really good wine. Yeah, Google Lanzarote. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Also, Google Nanaimo. Naimo.
Yeah, Nanaimo.
Nanaimo.
It's not the prettiest town. Like, it's known as being a pretty, like the actual town itself is kind of industrial and ugly, but the surrounding area is beautiful. If you really want to see something beautiful, Google Tofino. Tofino. That's kind of the gem of the island I'm on.
And then this kind of plays with what you just answered. Your favorite place of all the places you've traveled. I think you mentioned these, actually.
Yeah. So I think yeah, Basque Coast and is just the food. Like San Sebastian is a pretty incredible city. Amazing weather. I love it's actually a very unique culture there. They speak Basque, which is they're actually a very small, one of the oldest indigenous groups of Europe. So I really geek out on the history there. Incredible food. Yeah, or Berlin for cities though. Berlin and Amsterdam though are just the king of cool. If you're down for just a cool factor, Amsterdam and Berlin. If you're into more food and sunshine, Canary Islands or the Basque Coast.
Yeah, definitely Berlin. What was the worst job you have ever had?
Oh, I have had a lot of bad jobs, like seriously bad jobs. But the worst one I ever had was one where I was renovating an IKEA, and I had to do overhead concrete drilling. So you have a hammer drill, and you've got to hold the hammer over your head and pushing with all your strength. And so all the concrete is raining down on you. And like you talk to the book, like, hey, can I get a mask? And like, this rule book was written in blood. You're like, I never got a mask. And like, I'm like sneezing blood and stuff at the end of the day. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was I had a horrible boss. One day he actually didn't even show up because he was in jail for uttering threats. I actually called my uncle as a police officer, and I called him, and he was able to verify he's in jail for threatening people. He would put tequila in his coffee, which is just like, you have to be some sort of psychopath. It's like, little Baileys in your coffee on a Sunday morning is one thing, but this guy's putting tequila in his coffee Monday morning. And then he was just like a child. He would just kind of bang your hard hat with a hammer if you weren't doing things right. He was basically just like a big child. So just being completely verbally and physically abused by an alcoholic while drilling holes into concrete over your head. That was bad. And I used to hang off of 100-meter buildings, scraping bird crap with a razor blade off them in December while it's raining. That used to be my full-time job prior to this career. So I've had some very tough jobs. But that one there with the alcoholic boss takes the cake.
Wow. What was the first thing you bought with your own money?
Yeah, I had to scratch the memory bank for this one. It's probably candy. I got a pretty big sweet tooth, especially when I was a kid. Definitely candy, or probably like a cap gun. Playing cops and robbers, running around. Probably some sort of like toy gun type thing, or some candy, or probably both at the same time.
Amazing. Thanks, Thomas.